Hi everyone, it's Shabari here and welcome to the World Vegan Spring Market. And today is Eurovision Day. So I expect a lot of you will be watching Eurovision this evening. But to get you into the Eurovision mood, my special guest for today is Jun Fuchs. And here's a little bit about June. Baby, don't make me spell it out for you. All of the feelings that I've got for you. So, June is the founder and CEO of Freedom Quest, which is a platform designed with the goal and intention to veganize over 50% of the global human population by 2030. He grew up in Switzerland and has been vegan since 2017 and is currently based in Bali, Indonesia. And so June studied graphic design, and after working in creative agencies and ateliers, shifted his focus and co-founded a vegan restaurant. And over the years, he got trained in holistic healing practices, mindfulness, and entrepreneurship, which evolved into a coaching and mentorship business. In his early 20s, he started opening up to deeper friendships and intimate relationships. Many of the people I spent my time with before weren't in pure alignment with him and his values. Yes, he's been in toxic relationships and abusive friendships that make him face my shadows, heartbreaking breakups, months of emotional pain, and his continuous strive to explore my patterns and behaviors made June generate a new sense of conscious related to him and to others. And since 2018, he's got out of the closet as a queer man and started advocating for LGBTQIA plus rights out loud. Lots of men that were still hiding in the closet reached out to him seeking support and guidance. So you can ask questions to June as well during the course of our interview. So they wanted to have the confidence, clarity, and self-acceptance to openly be who they are without feeling ashamed, pressured, and fearful anymore. Also, women started to talking to June, seeking advice on relationships. So I'm just going to bring on June. Hey June, how you doing?
Oh my God, I'm
you make me feel fucking real.
Oh my God, I am so hyped. Like, that was a long introduction, and I was like, ooh, getting more hyped, getting more cooking up over here.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, like while we're waiting for more people to come on, I thought that that I will give it the full Shabari here, and welcome to the World Vegan Market. And I do apologize for the technical difficulties that we've had, but hopefully you guys can all hear me okay. Can you give me a thumbs up to say that you can hear me? Right. So I gave an introduction to June. My special guest today, which is Eurovision Day, is Jun Fuchs, all the way from Bali in Indonesia. So right, okay, so I've got a note saying yes, much better. fab. So, yeah,
That's
so
call, isn't it? Is
sorry.
that call? Who commented? Can you see who commented? It must be
I
my.
can't see who commented. It says Facebook user. Thanks, Facebook user. So, if anyone at home has any questions for our fabulous June, please put it in the comment section, and I'll read them out during the course of the interview. So, June, could you tell the viewers at home a bit about yourself?
Oh, honey, of course I can. Well, in the previous attempt of the live stream, you gave a marvelous introduction of who I am and where I'm coming from. So I'm just going to piggyback on that and keep it short. You already said it. I'm tuning in from Bali, Indonesia, which has been my home for the last 3.5 years. I did grow up in Switzerland, though. That's my country of birth and origin. Um, I moved to Bali in 2019 for various reasons, including the surfing, the tropical vegan food that is here available, a lot of fruits and stuff, and a past relationship, which was actually my first relationship with a man, with a local man. So I've been spending 3.5 years here in Bali, and I'm about to travel back to Switzerland for the first time as we speak. So in a couple of days from now, I'm gonna face a culture shock, honey. Right? What else about me? I'm the founder of a platform that is quite fresh, actually. It's called the Freedom Quest. A lot of you already know about it. It's been all over social media. The Freedom Quest is a platform created with the intention and the goal to veganize over 50% of the global human population within the next decade. It's a very bold goal, and we're working hard to get there. Um, what else about me? As you can tell, I'm a queer man. I identify as queer. Some people call me they, them. Some people call me he, him. And some people call me she, her. And it all works for me. It all works for me. And I think today we're going to dive a little bit deeper into those two parts of my life. And I'm sure a lot of you can relate to being queer, to being a part of like a rainbow community, or to not being a part of it and feeling very excluded and very alone. So today, the intention for sure is to help you change that, to give you some more insights on how beautiful it actually is to be a part of the rainbow and to claim that part of you and to be in love and at peace with it. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. I did study graphic design. That's like my previous background. I shifted gears into coaching and mentorship a couple of years ago, which has led me to growing a life coaching business for vegans and activists. And as I said before, over recent times, building a platform that is called the Freedom Quest platform. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you very much, June. And yes, so we will be talking about those two areas as part of the interview today. So once again, to the viewers at home, if you do have any questions for June, please put it in the chat. So June, tell the viewers at home a bit more about your vegan journey.
My vegan journey was initiated in 2017, which at this moment in time is almost 6 years ago. I don't remember the exact day, but it was towards the end of the year for sure. And as I said before, I grew up in a Swiss village. It was like a countryside village in Switzerland where veganism was far from something. There were a handful of vegans in the cities around that were doing activism. And one of my closest friends actually turned vegan, and he started talking about it, obviously, and triggering the fuck out of me. And I was like, leave me alone. I'm already vegetarian. So I had 3 years of being a vegetarian before I turned vegan. And the initiator was going to a cinema screening by his invitation, my friend's invitation. And he he said, you got to come. This is going to change your life. You got to come. Right. And I was like, okay, well, finally gave in. And I walked into that cinema, and it was a one-time movie screening of a German movie called In the Name of the Animals in German. I just translated that for our viewers. Yeah, I walked out of that cinema being a vegan for the rest of my life, and that will never change. So that was the start of it. And that also came with a strong phase of being an angry vegan, an angry activist, a frustrated one. And a full-time one, actually. So I didn't work full-time as an activist, but I had a full-time study job as a graphic designer. And then next to that, I would like spend almost all of my free hours trying to veganize people, going on demonstrations, helping design them, like their visuals, being there in present, going to the train stations in the cities, handing out leaflets, talking to people. Everything evolved around it, which was beautiful in a way, but I did burn out. At some point, I did burn out. I just overdone it. And yeah, so over that last 3.5 years, 4-ish years now, after that main burnout, I realized like there's a lot around personal growth that I haven't really looked at. And I realized that there's a strong link between being a vegan and developing yourself as an individual. And so I started coming out more and more as a queer man. I started embracing myself more, and I started throwing myself into like any kind of healing modality you could imagine. Like, let's go yoga, let's go breath work, let's learn meditation, let's learn like all the spiritual woo-woo, let's learn the science behind it. And through all of that, I realized that there is like a holistic way of elevating our impact as vegans when we combine all of these parts, which were all a part of my personal life story, right? Being at the front lines, being an activist, like raising your fist with courage and empowerment, but then at the same time also being in your humble, in your softness, in your yin, in your feminine. These are different words to describe the opposite of the aggressive, the pushing, the masculine, the yang energy. So that's a part of my story, and that's what has led me up to this moment, creating a platform, being a coach for vegans, and being here with you. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much, June. So we've had a couple of comments just come through. Well done on sticking to your values and principle, June. Hi, thanks for being with us live. I am vegetarian. I don't consume eggs and fish, though I eat dairy, so I'm not vegan. Well, you're on a journey, so that's the main thing. We're not here to judge anybody. Everybody is on a journey, and yeah. Don't know if this is the same person. I think eating dairy is not cruelty to animals, because they give milk naturally and consume milk is okay. Otherwise, milk will be wasted. Well, I have my own opinion on that, but June, let's come to you with how you would answer that comment.
I would say, honey, my mom used to say the exact same thing, and so did I. And it's just a matter of looking into the process of the industry. And regardless if it's the big milk industry or like small farmers, the closer you look, the more you'll see that there's actually pain and suffering involved in these processes. And I can relate to what you're saying because I recognize how I used to say like pretty much the exact same thing. And the deeper I looked into it, the more I realized that it's actually not the truth. I wish it was, but it isn't. If you want to know more about that, we can go deeper into that conversation. That's what I would ask any person that I have a conversation with. I can share with you what I've learned, what I've researched, what I've known up until this moment. But yeah, I would want you to give me permission to tell you more about it, or maybe you want to go and do your own research on it. That's how I feel.
Yeah. Thank you very much, June. And yeah, so I believe they would like more information.
Yeah.
So please get in touch with June after the interview. I will put June's details in the comment section as well, for anyone who'd like to get in touch with him directly. So June, what is it like? What is it like being a vegan gay man living in Bali, Indonesia?
I want to start this answer with a fun story, actually, because when I came here for the first time, I wouldn't say I was a closeted gay man. And closeted, for those of you that don't know, means somebody who isn't out yet, who doesn't share with people that they identify as gay or as any other sexual orientation or gender identification than straight, right? So the word closeted is what that means. And so I wasn't fully out yet, but to close people I would share it with. But then I came to Bali, and I actually landed in a place where there's like one street here where there's like 3 or 4 gay clubs lined up next to each other. It's like the place to be. For the rest, the island isn't really at a place yet, and so isn't the country where they know that that is a thing and that exists. So it's not that much aware of the terminologies of what is out there and how people could identify, right? Having that said, a lot of countries are. But since my experience here in Indonesia, going back to the first time I came, and then I walked down that road and I was like, doom, 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 let's find a nice surf spot, let's find another homestay, la la la. And then all of a sudden I walked past these 3 or 4 gay clubs, Britney Spears banging, and I was like, okay, kind of fun,
Oh, love that.
And all of a sudden I get like all of these like workers that apparently work there, but they don't look like it, but they do. Now I know. And they're trying to pull you in, and they literally like grab you and like, oh, you're so handsome. Come in, come in. And I was so uncomfortable. I was like, oh my God, no. And I wasn't in my expression as I am today. So imagine me being a little more, stern and maybe a bit more masculine and stuff. And I would walk by and I was like laughing, but I said like, no. Fasting forward to now, 3.5 years later, really seeing it. I've met so many people on this island, individuals, both expats and locals, that are just supportive. I've had my fair share of partners. A lot of them were local. There is a lot of guilt and shame around it because it is not as accepted in families often. And I have the same experience in Switzerland. There is still a lot of places in Switzerland, the countryside of Switzerland. I feel like it's the same situation than it is here. That families they're just unfamiliar with it, and they don't know what to do with their children when they identify differently, and they don't know how to support that. Some do. I've had really beautiful experiences here with my first partner, for example. His family was a bit repelled at the beginning, and they wouldn't support him. And he was also vegan by then. I think COVID really hit him hard, and they're a very poor family. I wasn't with him anymore during COVID, so I'm not sure if he's still vegan. Like, he lived in a very poor family where there was extremely limited access to different things. So that, just to give some context. But back then he was vegan, and then also queer. And like, his family I would say they couldn't cope with this. So they would call him names, and they would like, kind of exclude him from being a normal child. But a couple of years into the relationship, I did meet them in person, and I was introduced as the partner, and it became normal. So they warmed up to it. And that's one thing that I observe is if we're out and if we are presenting ourselves to people the way we feel on the inside, not saying in a way that you're smack banging them in the face all the time. It's kind of similar with vegan activism, right? But like, you can be humble presence, consistent humble presence. And through that, in this experience, in this example, they started becoming okay with it. And so I was hanging out with, his brothers, his sisters at some point, his mom and his stepfather. And so that was a beautiful experience. So I have to say there's both, right? There's a strong like against it still. It's not the norm. How it is with the rights, I mean, there's laws in Indonesia, but also there's a lot of individuals in Indonesia that create their own laws a bit. So I would say in certain places in this country, and saying that Bali is one island of over 10,000 islands in Indonesia.
Wow.
There are so many islands here. So there's a lot of Hindus here in Bali, which are tending to be a bit more accepting towards it. And then there's a lot of Muslim families where it's a bit tricky, right? So that's going to take some decades. I went on a tangent there. I think that was interesting, but what was the question? What is it to be a vegan and a gay man here in Indonesia?
Yes, and no, you've answered that beautifully. Explaining about how you first, what it was like when you were first there, and having sort of commonalities between Bali and where you grew up in Switzerland as well. So thank you so much for sharing that. Have you experienced any prejudice against yourself for either being vegan or gay?
Once, a couple of years ago, I was in Ubud, which is a city more in the center of the island of Bali, and we had a cube of truth arranged by Anonymous for the Voiceless within that city. So we got together, a handful of vegans. I was still with my first partner back then. He actually joined. I still have pictures of that cube. We spent about an hour in like an intersection, which was like a walk-through intersection. They wouldn't drive cars or bikes. If you've been to Indonesia, you know you don't want to stand in a in a road. It's same like India, for example. The traffic is nuts. Okay, so we were
Yeah.
standing in an intersection without bikes and just walking people. And an hour into the cube, at some point, like some locals in not a very official uniform, but you could tell they were part of something, would start gathering around us, and it was a bit awkward. So our local outreachers from AV would start talking to them, and it came out that they were kind of like not the local mafia, because the mafia is the wrong word, but there's like local caretakers of areas. They call them the banjars here, and they are not directly related to the police, but they collaborate, right? So they're like regional local police people, but usually they're also like let's say more of the community leaders in the space. So it's not official police. They would start gathering around us, and they kind of went a little bit aggressive and wanted to send us away, because they asked if we had like permission to be here, and we were like, well, according to the law, we researched law. According to the law, there was we have, right? But they didn't like that, so they wanted us gone. So we had to leave, right? And obviously, there is a difference between having such a situation here in a country like Indonesia and having it somewhere in Europe where you are protected by certain laws. And here that can be a little bit blurry. So we effed off. We fucked off. That was the only time I actually experienced it with veganism. The other times, there is a lot of like vegans here on the island that are mostly vegan for health reasons or spiritual reasons. And I know that's debatable, and I kind of agree with y'all. I mean, if you're for spiritual reasons or health reasons, you might shift gears again and not be vegan. And I think that's not really being vegan. But there's a lot of people here that are very open and understand kind of the concept of compassion and actually caring about the planet and animals. And they are practicing that in application, same like we as vegans do, right? We're like completely dedicated to applying veganism to the areas in our life. There is a lot of vegan restaurants here, like in the more city centers. There's a lot, like you can get really good vegan food. Have I ever experienced some moments as a gay or a queer man here? I would say the first thing that pops to mind is just the drama within the community, honey. The drama within the community. Like I've seen gay men pick physical fights against each other, jealousy of boyfriends and stuff, but like from actual official I don't really, I haven't really seen much of that. I remember there was one woman who made a live stream on Instagram at some point, and she was talking about how the country loves queer people and respects them and understands them to the full extent. And I'm not saying that that is true or not. I'm not going to voice an opinion on that here, but she definitely voiced things that the government didn't like, and she was deported. Right? She was, So there is definitely caution asked when queer people, or not even queer people, when people voice an opinion about it that aren't local. So if you're here as an expat and you voice your stuff, that's why I'm being a bit conscious even in this Facebook group, right?
Mm.
There are situations where the government might not agree or might not like what you're promoting because it's a touristic point of view, right? So she kind of, and she had a lot of followers, as I remember. She was a big, big on Instagram. And so she was sharing something that really didn't sit well with the government, and then they executed it. And I don't know if she identified as queer or not, but maybe she just walked past the same clubs and she was like, oh, it's very accepted here. And then she started talking about how this is a very queer friendly country and how all the queers can come here and be free and be themselves and stuff. And I'm not sure what the government talked about in that situation, but she's not here anymore.
Oh wow! I mean, thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, I'm sure a lot of viewers at home won't have known about this. I mean, are there any laws at all in Indonesia to protect gay rights? And also, what do you do yourself in terms of activism for gay rights? Are there any groups, for example, that you're part of that does activism?
Beautiful question. So there are a handful of NGOs which educate on HIV and on how to manage yourself on a health point of view if you are, having sexual experiences with the same gender. There have been a couple of names over the past years that, and with a couple, I mean, you can count them on probably one hand. There haven't been a lot of like gay rights or queer rights activists here that truly, had big impact, but there were a handful of those. And I, if somebody wants to know, I can research those names again. One thing that I've done, because I know that a hell of a lot of people here, especially gay men or bi men or queer men, however, whatever label, whatever, rainbow men, are closeted. They're not open and not public about it, and that carries very often the emotion of guilt and shame, right? I'm ashamed of it, I'm guilty of it, or I'm scared of being open and out, which I do understand. After what I just said, I do understand with the whole families, scared of not being accepted, scared of being pushed out of the families, etc., which does happen. What I've done is there's dating apps, right? So we all know that there's dating apps, and I've been kind of looking for a way to be active here and to support the queer community for a long time, because the clubs, I've reached out to all of their founders, all of the owners of these gay clubs, and they have a good reputation because they bring tourists, they bring people. It's an event, it's an experience. They have drag shows there, quite actually very good drag shows there. I've enjoyed them here and there. And they don't really present other aspects to queerness or to gayness than the celebration, the party, the artistic form a little bit through drag, right? So what I've realized is there's dating apps, and I've been a part of dating apps for years and years. Currently, I'm not. And I've been a part of those for years. And because I'm pretty, I get a lot of messages. And then at some point I realized like there's a lot of people that are quite lost, that are just seeking more love and more care, and they try to find it in the wrong places, which is not only in the gay community. I bet a lot of you can relate. Toxic relationships, hello. Falling in love with the wrong people, hello. And I've started to collect all of their contacts and invited them into a WhatsApp group where they were protected as far as we could with their identity. And I started hosting online gatherings so that they wouldn't have to go somewhere and wouldn't have to be seen. So I started online gatherings, and that group grew up to 200 and something members, 210 members over a couple of months. And we had these weekly meetups, right? We had these weekly like Zoom room meetups where I was just like a person to ask questions, or other people were people to ask questions. And every week we would focus on a specific topic, such as self-love or confidence, or not dating wrong people, or clarifying who you actually want in your life and who not. So like the work that I've done as a coach, I started bringing that into the community in a kind of undercover way. And that worked out for quite some time. But there was an issue with, first of all, not everybody understanding English really well. And
Mm,
second of all, a lot of the locals, they really wanted to meet in person.
mm,
Like a lot of them really wanted to meet in person. So we've been trying to set that up for months now, and it hasn't happened yet. And it's just a challenge. And so it hasn't fully happened yet. But what I can say is the people that I've connected with, there is some really strong rainbow warriors. That was actually the name of the group is Rainbow Warriors. Warriors, and there's some strong rainbow warriors here on this island and in this country that are doing amazing work. And with amazing work, I don't even mean that they go on the streets. There's not a lot of marches. I know in like Jakarta, which is the capital city at this moment on the island
mm,
of Java, it's next to Bali. Um,
mm.
there have been like human rights marches, queer rights marches. My current partner was part of one of those, I remember. But there isn't that much of that. So the main form of activism is interpersonal, making sure that people, don't get HIV and don't get on the wrong track, don't consistently, fall in love with elderly expats that then, don't fulfill what they're looking for. So there's a strong interpersonal activism happening here, which is what I can say at this moment. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you so much, June. And when we were chatting last weekend, you mentioned a term which I hadn't heard of before. So I thought that it would be very interesting for the viewers at home to actually learn about that term. And that term is houses. So could you explain what houses are?
Yes, I can. First, I want to have like voice a disclaimer before I give you an insight on how I understand houses and where I learned it from. I've never been a part of a house, so I've never experienced it in my own, being what that is like to be a part of a house. I've learned from it through different people that were parts of houses, and I've also learned of the history of houses through a Netflix series that I talked to you about, which is called Pose, which I recommend everybody to watch. It's really, really good. Pose, pose. Um, the concept of houses, to my knowledge, was born in the 60s, 70s, and it was mainly born because a lot of young queer people, mainly young queer Black people as well, were, kicked out of their homes, And I think it started in New York. I'm not sure if it was I think it was New York. The series Pose displays it really well. And as I remember it, those people were on the streets, right? And those were teenagers. A lot of them were teenagers. And then you had some that were in their 20s and some that were in their 30s. And a lot of those that were a little bit older, they kind of like found their way to make some money. Maybe they were working at strip clubs, maybe they were sex workers, whatever it was considered back then as like very low quality job, very like not respect earning jobs, but they somehow made it to, get themselves through. And at some point they started, seeing and picking these kids from the streets and bringing them into their living space. And that's where houses started to be born, because new families kind of found each other, found together under the leadership of a mother or a father. And that's where these terminologies have like a different meaning as well in the queer community, because when you were a part of a house back then, you had a mother and or a father, usually it was one or the other. And those were often also trans people, right? Trans people, performers, really talented people, but just not accepted by society. And so they started coming together in these collectives, would be another term that we could use. They use the term houses. And as we're fasting forward, houses, as the queer community has grown and grown, and more people came out, it's like I don't identify as the norm anymore. I feel different. And as this community has developed, and a whole new set of words have been also developed for people to kind of explain themselves, identify themselves to an extent, right? Which you can either give a fuck about or it can be helpful, right? Or both at the same time. And so these houses started to develop and develop. And in the meanwhile, houses are not only these collective, there's actually like big businesses, like a lot of drag queens and like drag families, drag lineages are houses, or some houses are like strong performers, or there's a whole nother facet that I could go into here, but there is houses that have makeup lines. House of Gaga, Lady Gaga has a house, right? And she has a makeup line, and she's a nobody doesn't know Lady Gaga, right? So there's basically this movement that came out of that created really empowered businesses as well, really empowered teams that were based on, like being there for each other and unifying. And so I highly recommend, if you want to know more about that, to watch the series Pose. It really educates extremely well on how that was like. And then there's another part, the ballroom scene, which is like the place for them to express themselves. And they would hold competitions in fashion, in dance, different types of dance, in beauty, etc. And for them, that was the place to be like the white people with standard back then, right? So they created a universe basically for themselves, and that universe expanded, and now the whole world starts to know about the concept of houses. And yeah, I think that's all that I want to explain about it for now.
Thank you very much, June, and I'll also share a link to the documentary which you mentioned about as well. Just before the next question, I'm just going to go through some of the comments that have come
Mhm.
up. Wow, 10,000 islands in Indonesia. I mean, that's amazing. I didn't know that. 10,000 islands. Wow.
A lot. Not all of them are discovered.
Hi, Marikita. And hello to I think the Human Kindness film are
Mate and yeah.
Anya and Mate. Hi, two great warriors, Shabari and June. Great to see you guys. Great to see you both too.
Fun
And
fact, the Freedom Quest and this face here will also be in the Human Kindness film.
oh wow! Oh, I didn't know that. So this is an exclusive. June is going to be in the Human Kindness film. So watch this space, everyone at home. That's amazing. That's amazing. I honestly didn't know that. Oh wow. Well done. And nice name. There was also a Greenpeace ship called the Rainbow Warrior. I
True.
didn't know that
Yeah.
either. Fab.
Yeah.
So, June, what would you say needs to change in society in terms of attitudes towards the LGBTQIA plus community?
Where do I start?
Yeah.
One thing that always comes up for me is like, for the generation previous, or the generation like that have children and that don't understand them. Your job is not to understand them. Your job is to love them. And with that, you will learn to understand them. That is one very important thing that I think is really, like, it's not said enough, because regardless if it's gay people or queer people, or people that kids, I'm talking about the kids, right? Kids and their parents. So for parents to actually guide from a place of love, instead of from a place of maybe fear, maybe shame. I'm ashamed for my kid. Like, parents, do the inner work, get a fucking coach, get a mentor, enroll in a course, do your personal development, whatever you need, so that you can love the children. That's one thing that I feel is very important. Another thing that I think is also very important is, there's a good balance, and there's like a lot of people that aren't in the LGBTQ community, or don't identify as a part of the different people, or whatever word we will use for that, or you want to use for that. Share your opinion only if you're asked to do, right? Like, not every queer person is waiting for somebody's opinion on them. Like, not every gay man is waiting for a friend to tell them that, they shouldn't dress up that feminine, that they don't like it. Nobody cares about your opinion unless they ask you. to share your opinion. That I think that is very important, because we all, and I'm talking also to the queer community, we all judge either one or another, other people outside of the queer community. We are very, very addicted to judgment. And I know my mind, I know everybody's mind, that like often when you see people, your mind goes to jumping to judgments. And to be in the consistent practice, and this counts for everybody within the rainbow and outside of the rainbow community, work on quitting the judgment. Work on quitting the judgment, because the judgment destroys unity, regardless if it's, like, regardless who one is. The judgment destroys unity. And we don't know what people went through. We don't know where they came from. We often don't know what they're going through right now. And then to let the mind judge them is not only toxic for them if it's, affecting them in a conversation, it's toxic for ourselves. And I just want to bring the responsibility back to each and every one ourselves, regardless if we're part of the queer community, the LGBTQ plus identification range, whatever sexual orientation. Work on letting go of judgment, because that does awaken love, and that does bring unity, right? And even if it's strange, or if it's weird, or if it's too far out there, it will become normal. It's the same with veganism. For a lot of people, it's too strange, it's too far out there, it's too weird, extreme. It will become normal, because we're doing the work to make it become normal. The word vegan has been found, or like created, in the 1960s, right? I think 1960. I don't remember who it was exactly. You can Google it, you'll figure it out. But it's a rather new term. And it's taking like a decade to a century for people to actually get to understand it to the core. And same is with all the words that come with queer and LGBTQ plus and all of that stuff, it's just quit judging. It doesn't do great to anybody. I think that's the most important lesson. Work on quitting the judgment.
Absolutely, I agree with that. So, from my understanding, the word vegan was coined. I believe I have to look this up, but I believe it was in the 1920s. Donald Watson and Leslie Cross had coined the term vegan, and in fact, actually, just to let the viewers at home know, I had a panel. I organised a panel discussion with veteran vegans, and in fact, I had the son of Leslie Cross, Jun Cross, who has been vegan for 80 years. He was born vegan for the panel discussion. So if you haven't yet watched that, please scroll down and do watch the panel discussion. I think you'll be very, very intrigued by and inspired by a group of long-term vegans, veteran vegans. Yeah. So thank you very much for sharing that, June. I wanted to ask, actually, in India, I don't know if you know about the hijras in India. They are you probably heard about it, but I think the viewers at home may probably not know. So hijras are transgender women who are they're a sort of like a close-knit community, and often they are orphans. And so what they do is what I know about them is that when a child is born, the hijras will go around and play music, play drums, and actually do some performance, do some kind of ritual for the child. And in India, they are seen as pariahs, and I've watched a documentary about this, where they are just they it's very upsetting for them, because they're treated as outcasts within the community, and they're just normal people that want to be accepted. Do you have I mean, are there any hijras in Indonesia that you know of? You mentioned about there are a lot of Hindus in Indonesia. Is there a hijra community there?
I wouldn't know of any. No, has never crossed my ears. I don't believe it exists here. To or how as you describe it, no, haven't met. What I obviously have met is just transgender people that are working in different places on this island. But not as you describe that now. No, no.
Mm, mm. Yeah, I mean, again, because they are seen as pariahs in society. It's society that has to change. We were talking about this earlier. Attitudes need to change, and I think what it is that because they are seen as being different to what that people will say is normal society. That's why they're treated as pariahs, and they just want to be accepted. People often think that because when they do go around to people's houses after there's a child has been born, of course, they're performing and doing some kind of ritual, so which they're expected payment to be paid, and people are actually saying that that if you don't pay them, they put a curse on you. And this is the thing in India. People think that that curses are I don't know what why they've got that in their head, that somebody can actually put a curse on you if they don't like you. But this is one of the reasons why hijras are treated as pariahs. Yes, somebody. Oh, hi there, Deepak. Yes, like gypsies. Yeah, and that's the case in everywhere, really. Gypsies are also misunderstood, and they're treated as pariahs. Hijra translation is eunuch. Yeah, that's right. That is correct. Yeah. I've just actually had somebody share a Wikipedia entry about what hijra is. So if anybody would like to know a bit more about the hijra community, you're welcome to click on that link and have a read. So I also wanted to ask you as well, June, having experienced the fabulous nightlife in Brighton, hubby and I, we went to see a drag performance ourselves in a gay bar. It was 2 weeks ago, in fact, when we went to Brighton, and we stayed there for the whole weekend for the Veg Fest. But we actually made the most out of the nightlife there as well. And then we also went to a gay nightclub as well. So I wanted to ask you, and you did talk about this earlier as well. What is the nightlife like in Bali? In terms of gay nightclubs, gay bars, and sort of drag performances in sort of gay bars, etc.
Yeah. I have to say that, as I said before, there isn't that much. There's one specific area where the area is called Seminyak, and there's close to that area, there's an area called Legian, and then you have Kuta. And those were the first places when tourists started coming over that would pick up on tourism and start, opening stores, opening bars, offering surf lessons, everything. And I don't exactly know when it was. It was quite some years ago. But that's where I would say like a lot of the tourism started. And as I mentioned before, in one of those streets, there's like a lineup of gay bars, just four next to each other. And in the same street, in the same area, there's a good handful of bars where drag performers get to perform. And some of these bars are gay bars and some of them aren't at all. And they still get to perform there. So within that area, there is actually a lot to see and to experience when it comes to drag performances. Yeah, there is quite a lot. And over the years, in my personal opinion, I think the drag here has elevated. So like the first times when I saw it, sometimes it was a bit, we call it messy or a little bit unpolished. But now at this time, the last time I went to like these couple of bars next to each other, I have to say like those performers are really, they're good, you know. And with they're good, I mean their performance is a lip sync performance most of the time, right? Which is like there's a song playing and they act like they perform it. And in the beginning, lip syncing wasn't really considered an art or a craft, but they have developed it to such a finesse that very often you go like, if you don't know it, you could buy that they're singing, you know, if you don't know it, because they are reenacting it so well. And they're developing a performance around it, and they're developing or they're co-creating with somebody their outfits. And you know, it's just it's a craft to watch, and you've experienced it over there, right? What I think here is really beautiful as well is that like Asians in general, in my observation, are often strongly in touch with their feminine side, with their intuitive and their creative side. And that brings out a lot of like creative force in these drag performances. And then on top of that, a lot of Asians have a tendency to be quite flexible, which also benefits their performances. So they jump into splits and stuff, you know,
Yes.
like crazy stuff. And that I really like. Outside of that area, it isn't really established, and I don't know how much it will be established over the next decade. I really don't know. What I'm observing now is there's much more focus on like building out surf communities or spiritual, you know, co-living communities, and then you have like these queer people here and there, but like clubs like that, I haven't seen them expand really. They're running well where they are, but I haven't really seen them expand.
Great, thank you very much, June. Yeah, so you know, when I was in Brighton, when we were both in Brighton, hubby and I, we actually hung out with some gay men, including the drag artist that we saw. Her name's Shallow Vera, and yeah, so we all because we went to the same gay bar called Affinity Bar. Two nights in a row, and the first night we obviously saw Shallow Vera in you know all made up and everything. In fact, she has a really good a fantastic voice. And then we saw her again in plain clothes the following day, and then she obviously we didn't recognize her, but she recognized us, and she was like, oh, you two were here the night before, weren't you? I'm Shallow Vera. And we were like, oh, right, okay, because she was wearing plain clothes. And so we were invited to Legends, which is a gay nightclub and also a bar in Brighton. And you know, Shallow Vera had brought along some of her friends as well. And one young man, actually, he was only 20 years old. He was from Sri Lanka, and he mentioned to me that he originally he was too scared to tell his family that he was gay, but he did eventually. And but it was only his mum that accepted him being gay. You know, and none of his other family members accepted him. And he was such he was so sweet. Actually, his partner was there as well. You know, we got to meet him as well, and he's also vegan. So yeah, that, I mean, like, we, you know, we were like dancing with them, getting to know them. I mean, you know, we had such an amazing time during the nightlife there. I wanted to ask you, June, you know, if other people are in the sort of, you know, the same situation as this young man, you know, being only sort of 20 years old, being scared to tell his family, and eventually he did, and it was only his mum that accepted him, and he was ignored by you know, other members of the family. What would you advise others in the same situation as this young man?
I've had conversations like these with quite some of those group members, right? The Rainbow Warriors. And one of the things that is important to evaluate first is to like see if there's actually any real physical danger. Like if a family would actually execute any physical abuse if they knew. And very often the fear in somebody's head might be too loud for them to see that there's actually not that much danger. But at the same time, it can actually be dangerous. So I've talked to people, you know, queer people being beaten up, being like physically abused, it happens, and it still happens a lot. So to really evaluate, is there a true danger or isn't there? And if there is, to see a way to get the hell out of there. To get the hell out of there. Like, that's my personal opinion. So I'm like, if you're in an environment where you're physically endangered, even if it is your blood family, we need to find a way for you to get out of there, because there is a family for you waiting somewhere else. Even if it isn't your blood family, there's people that are going to take you in, that are going to love you the way fathers and mothers and brothers and sisters and children do. There are. And a lot of queer people don't know that. They don't know that that exists and that that is available. And in this day and age, it truly is. So finding a way to be not in physical danger anymore would be the first important thing. If there isn't, like with this beautiful being that you just mentioned from Sri Lanka, if there isn't, and it's just a question of family members not accepting you anymore, maybe, you know, like not want to talk to you anymore, yes, it's fucking hard and it's heartbreaking, and we're crying a lot of tears over that for one another and for ourselves. Outside of that, I think it's really important to know that when we find people that are truly there for us, you know, and that are truly like can be a family for us and love us and support us, we can heal. We can heal these traumas. We can heal these moments, and we can, you know, find peace, love, and happiness again. Most cases, much more than when we just stick to, you know, being in fear of the family neglecting us. So in his case, I'm very pleased to hear that his mother actually accepted him, because I've been to Sri Lanka and I've talked to some people that were closeted, and they said like there's danger of being killed, death penalty in this country for it, right? And so that made me realize, okay, this is a whole next level. I can't just, you know, be my queer, vibrant self over there. I really need to be also cautious, regardless of, you know, I didn't know. I didn't know what could happen to me and if there would actually be any danger. So I think the most important thing is that, and I think that also counts for people in any situation, that you don't feel like you fit in and you feel scared that your family might judge you and abandon you for it. Just know that there's people out there that won't. And the faster you can find them, the better for everyone.
Thank you very much, June. We've just had another question come in from D Park. He's said, like drag queens, is pride legal in Indonesia?
I would say it's a good gray zone. It's a good gray zone here. I I can't say it's legal, and I can't say it's illegal. I can say that the clubs that I've talked about before, they've made their name, they've made their statement, and they are protected by different people, different networks, and also by being actually like something like something special for tourists. So they've, they've kind of claimed their seat in a way. But I've reached out to some of them, for example, and I said, hey, I want your help. I want to host like events at your place for, like helping queers becoming a little bit more happy, or, understanding a bit more about themselves, etc. And they said, we cannot do that because we also need to protect ourselves. So I think that answers your question, Deepak.
Thank you very much. And just a couple of final questions from myself. If the viewers at home, if you have any more questions, please do put it in the chat. So, Jun, I wanted to ask you: will you be watching Eurovision tonight? I mean, today is Eurovision Day, or Eurovision night. So, will you be watching it?
It's going to be 3 a.m. in the night for me. And I was actually planning to watch it with my partner. He was supposed to come over, but he had some other things happening related to his work that he needs to fix. So I will most probably not make it to stay up because I also want to go surf tomorrow morning. And I was kind of like, having that said, though, I'm rooting for Loreen for Sweden.
Ah.
Yeah, I'm in love with her. Like, even if I did, like, there's a handful of women on this planet that I'm like, and Loreen is one of those. I'm like, this woman has a journey, she has a power, she has a connection, and she's hot. Like, she's fucking hot. She's smoking. So I'm rooting for her, and I love her song and stuff. But also, there's a couple of other ones that are like that I'm big fond of. But I mean, that could have been your next question.
Oh yeah, no, I absolutely love Eurovision, and yeah, it's at a reasonable time here in the UK, eight in the evening. So yeah, I mean, I've always been a fan of Eurovision, and in fact, I was reading the other day about the 69 most popular songs that won in Eurovision, and I saw that Conchita was something like number 15, and Dana International was something like 30, and I was thinking, well, hey, come on, they should be. I mean, Conchita should have been in the top five. Both of them should have been in the top five. Conchita probably should have been number one. I mean, like they were really groundbreaking. I thought, and brilliant voices as well. Yeah,
Yeah, I agree.
yeah. But yeah, I am very much looking forward to watching Eurovision, and yeah, just had a Facebook user comment: Eurovision Song Contest is such a great freedom of impression. Yeah, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, as I said, I love Eurovision, and I'm sure a lot of the viewers at home also love Eurovision as well. And yeah, it's probably one of the few places that actually brings Europe together, and you can be who you want to be, and no judgment. I mean, yes, a lot of people will say, oh, Eurovision, it's very cheesy, it's very camp, and the thing is, to me, Eurovision is what this person's Facebook user has said, freedom of expression, and to be who you want to be, and that's what we want for the world, to be yourself. And yeah, so that's a great message, I think. So I wanted to ask Jun, what is your final message that you'd like to leave our viewers at home with?
I think I already dropped some amazing messages in this interview. And just rephrasing one more time is, there's so many facets to you, right? To every one of you. And it's I think life is an invitation to lean into those and to explore those. And even if they are not what you truly like, feel home in, it's fun. I've met straight men that done drag for the, experience of it. And I think it's just play, and playing from a place of security and curiosity and joy. I think that's one of the biggest invitations that a lot of queer people and drag queens and LGBTQ plus people from all over the world start embodying and expressing. And don't take yourself too seriously. Like, don't take yourself too seriously. Like, have fun. You're going to be gone at some point. So just explore, have fun, express, as long as you don't harm anybody. No animal, no human, as little as possible, planet Earth. Have fun, express. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much. That's a brilliant message. And I just want to say, Jun, I mean, like, you look absolutely amazing. I know you mentioned before that you don't normally, people haven't seen you like this. So yeah, so thank you so much for all expressing your views, and also letting the viewers at home know that bringing together two very important things in your life, being a queer man and also being a vegan as well. And I hope the viewers at home have more of an understanding about the from the perspective of Jun, and also other queer vegan men out there, and what kind of experiences that they have had. And so thank you so much, Jun. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you as my guest today.
I'm honored. I'm thrilled. I'm pleased. It's yeah, you said it. It's not something that I talk that much about because it's not as related as other things that I talk about, but I really do. And if anybody has any questions, or you want to get in touch, or you want to share something from your heart, I'm a DM away from you, like, just send me a message.
Wonderful. And I will share Jun's details as well in the comments after the interview, so that you can get in touch with him directly. Just had another comment come through. Thanks, Jun. Such a warm, interesting interview. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who watched the live interview. If you're watching on a replay, thank you to you all also. And don't forget to put #replay in the comment section as well. And please do share. Please do share this this interview. If you feel that you'd like to share this on your Facebook profile, or any groups that are relevant as well. Yes, let's get the message out there. And once again, thank you so much, and enjoy Eurovision. Happy Eurovision Day, everyone. Bye-bye.